Hi everyone, this is Ashwin from Robojunkies, and in this video we will take a look at how to assemble the LF2 line follower kit. By the end of this video you should be able to make a line following robot as shown here. So let's start with what you will get in this kit. A laser cut acrylic chassis, an Arduino Nano, a TB6612 FNG motor driver, the line follower carrier board, a 5-channel analog line following sensor, 3D printed wheels and silicone grips, a pair of 6V 600 RPM N20 gear motors, motor brackets, M2 and M3 nuts and bolts, and some jumper wires. Now let's begin with the assembly. First, insert the M2 nuts in their slots in the bracket, and repeat this step for both brackets. The brackets will be attached on the chassis as shown here. For now, insert the M2 bolts from below and screw them in a bit. This is just to ensure the brackets stay in place, so do not tighten the screw too much. Repeat this step for both brackets. Ensure there is enough space for the motors to slide inside the bracket. Now we can go ahead and attach the motors. Insert the motors in the bracket and tighten the screws from below. Now you can go ahead and tighten them so that the motors are locked in place. Repeat this step for both motors. The next step is to attach the Arduino board and the motor driver to the carrier board. Make sure the direction of the USB port is correct and insert the Arduino board and the motor driver so that all the pins are connected to the carrier board appropriately. Now we can mount the carrier board on top of the chassis. For this you will need a pair of M3 nuts and bolts. Remember to not over tighten the screws too much because acrylic has a tendency to crack under high stress. For the next step, we will attach the sensor array to the front of the chassis. For this, we will need a couple of M2 nuts and bolts. Make sure the spacer is providing a gap between the chassis and the sensor as shown here. This ensures that the sensor is at an optimal distance to detect the line properly. Now we can begin with the wiring. There are two screw terminals for attaching the motors. You can connect the motors as shown here. For the sensor wiring, we can use the jumper wires provided in the kit. We will need a set of 7 wires to connect the sensor. First, make sure 5V and ground lines are connected properly to the carrier board. And the rest of the wires will be connected as shown in the table here. Finally, you can connect the wheels and the tires onto the motor shaft. One thing that is not provided in this kit is a battery. For this, we recommend using a 2-cell LiPo battery, and an easy way to attach this is by using a rubber band as shown here. This allows you to easily connect and disconnect the battery for charging whenever required. The final step would be to connect the power supply to the screw terminals on the carrier board. Be sure to not mess up the polarity in this step. Now the robot is ready for action.